Did you know that seniors in America are rewriting the rules of love? In fact, surveys show that people over 60 are not only dating more than ever before, but many report their relationships feel more passionate and fulfilling now than they did decades ago. Imagine that. Discovering deeper intimacy, richer companionship, and even more satisfying physical closeness at 70 than you may have experienced at 40. Surprising. Absolutely. But it's also incredibly empowering. For too long, society has pushed the false belief that romance, dating, and intimacy have an expiration date. Yet, across the country, older adults are proving just the opposite. From seniors finding partners on specialized dating apps, to retirees exploring new hobbies and meeting love in unexpected places like hiking groups, travel clubs, and volunteer circles, the landscape of relationships after 60 is bursting with fresh opportunities. And here's what makes it even more exciting. Intimacy itself is evolving. It's no longer just about performance or meeting youthful expectations. It's about laughter, emotional closeness, gentle touches, and building a kind of connection that feels both liberating and soulful. Seniors are showing that passion doesn't fade with age. It transforms into something more meaningful. So, if you've ever thought that your best days of romance were behind you, stay with us. This video will open your eyes to how love after 60 isn't just alive. It's thriving in ways you might never have imagined. If you're over 60, you already know life feels different in ways that can't be explained to someone younger. You've weathered storms, celebrated victories, and carried wisdom that only comes with decades of lived experience. And when it comes to love, dating, and intimacy, this stage of life is not a closing chapter. It's an entirely new book waiting to be written. In this video, we're going to explore something that often gets overlooked, sometimes even avoided in conversation. The truth about senior dating and intimacy. Not the outdated stereotypes, not the jokes you might hear in passing, but the real, heartfelt, sometimes even surprising ways that love and passion continue to bloom after 60. Because while society may have once painted aging as the end of romance, the reality today, especially in the United States, is strikingly different. Seniors are rediscovering companionship, reigniting intimacy, and in many cases, experiencing richer and deeper connections than they ever imagined. We'll talk about how dating after 60 is evolving with modern times, how new tools like senior-friendly dating platforms and familiar ones like community clubs and travel groups are creating pathways to genuine connection. But more importantly, we'll dive into the emotional side of it. The laughter, the vulnerability, the courage it takes to open your heart again after loss or disappointment. This isn't just about finding someone to spend time with. It's about rediscovering parts of yourself you may have thought were gone forever. And to make this real, not just theoretical, we'll walk alongside a character whose story reflects what so many seniors are quietly yearning for. Her journey will help us see the beauty and challenges of late-life love, and her transformation will shine a light on what's possible for anyone willing to take that leap of faith. So, if you've ever wondered whether romance has passed you by, or questioned if passion still belongs in your life at this stage, I invite you to stay with us. Because what you're about to hear might just change the way you think about love, intimacy, and the kind of joy that only comes when you finally have the freedom to live authentically, without apology, without pressure, and with your heart wide open. Tip 1. Meet Eleanor Rosewood. Let me introduce you to someone who will guide us through this journey. Eleanor Rosewood. At 67, Eleanor isn't the kind of woman you'd easily forget. A retired jazz singer from New Orleans, she spent most of her younger years filling smoky nightclubs with her velvet voice. Her music carried stories of heartbreak, resilience, and passion, but off-stage, Eleanor's personal love life was far quieter. After her husband of 32 years passed away, she believed her days of romance and intimacy were behind her. She poured herself into her grandchildren, her garden, and her books, convincing herself that love was a chapter she had already closed. But here's where Eleanor's story takes a turn. One day, nudged by a close friend, she joined a local travel club for seniors, a group she thought was just about sightseeing and social outings. She didn't expect anything more than casual conversation and maybe a new friend or two. Yet, on a bus trip to Savannah, surrounded by laughter and the hum of shared stories, Eleanor found herself sitting next to a widower who shared her love for jazz and had a smile that disarmed her guarded heart. What makes Eleanor's story powerful isn't just that she met someone new, it's the transformation that followed. She began to realize that her assumptions about aging and romance were limiting her joy. She discovered that companionship at this stage of life doesn't feel rushed or transactional. It feels intentional, meaningful, and rooted in appreciation. For Eleanor, intimacy wasn't about rekindling the fiery passions of youth. It was about discovering a new rhythm that blended comfort with spark, laughter with tenderness. Eleanor's story isn't rare. Seniors across America are finding love in places they never expected. Clubs, community centers, even casual encounters at farmers markets. But Eleanor embodies what so many are afraid to believe, that it's never too late to open your heart again. As we walk through this video, Eleanor's journey will remind us that love after 60 isn't about chasing what was lost. It's about embracing what can still be found. And perhaps, like Eleanor, you'll see that passion doesn't fade with age. It simply changes its melody, waiting for you to dance to it once again. Tip 2. Redefining dating after 60. Dating after 60 is not what it used to be, and that's a good thing. For decades, seniors were told, often in subtle ways, that romance was behind them, that companionship was all they could hope for, and that dating was a word reserved for the young. But today, seniors are challenging those outdated ideas. Instead of shrinking from love, they're embracing new opportunities to connect in ways that honor their life experience, their wisdom, and their desire for deeper companionship. Take Eleanor Rosewood's journey, for example. She didn't re-enter dating by swiping endlessly or going to crowded nightclubs. She stumbled into it naturally, on a travel club trip, where shared experiences and casual conversation built a bridge to connection. And that's what makes dating after 60 unique. It often grows from spaces where trust, comfort, and shared values are already part of the environment. But we also can't ignore how technology has reshaped the landscape. There are now dating apps and websites designed specifically for older adults, such as Silver Singles and Our Time, platforms where people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond can connect without feeling overshadowed by a younger crowd. What makes these platforms different isn't just age filtering. It's the emphasis on compatibility, patience, and genuine conversation. For many seniors, online dating isn't about shopping for partners. It's about finding someone who understands the rhythms of this stage of life. And then there are local meetups and community events, book clubs, senior fitness classes, church gatherings, and volunteer opportunities. These places are thriving hubs for organic connection, where conversations can begin without pressure. For many seniors, love is blossoming over shared laughter at a cooking class, or through teamwork while volunteering at a food pantry. What truly redefines senior dating, however, is the mindset shift. It's no longer about trying to impress with status, appearance, or youthful energy. Instead, it's about shared values, kindness, honesty, respect, and emotional depth. Seniors are finding joy in slower, more intentional relationships, where communication isn't rushed, and where companionship can mean just as much as romance. In this new era of dating, the pressure is off, and the freedom is greater. Love after 60 is less about proving yourself and more about being yourself. And for many, that makes it more authentic, more rewarding, and surprisingly, more exciting than ever before. Tip 3. Sex, health, and intimacy. When most people hear the words sex and seniors in the same sentence, they either chuckle uncomfortably or avoid the topic altogether. But the reality is this: intimacy after 60 is alive, evolving, and in many ways, more meaningful than ever before. It just looks different than what we may have been taught to expect. At this stage of life, intimacy is no longer about proving stamina or living up to unrealistic ideals. Instead, it becomes about connection, the kind that makes you feel safe, cherished, and seen. For many seniors, passion is rediscovered in moments of playfulness and laughter, in holding hands during a walk, or in conversations that stretch late into the night. It's a kind of closeness that feels authentic and liberating because the pressure to perform fades, leaving space for honesty and joy. But intimacy after 60 also thrives on wellness. Today's seniors are far more proactive about their health. From staying active through walking groups or yoga, to speaking openly with doctors about sexual health, they are embracing the fact that well-being and intimacy go hand in hand. Modern medicine, from safe treatments for erectile dysfunction to therapies for menopause-related changes, has given seniors tools that didn't exist for previous generations. What was once whispered about behind closed doors can now be discussed openly, with dignity and without shame. And here's something important. Communication is becoming the cornerstone of intimacy. Seniors are discovering that honesty about needs, fears, or physical changes creates deeper bonds. Saying, "I need more closeness," or "let's try something new together," isn't awkward, it's freeing. For many, this kind of vulnerability actually fuels passion, creating a deeper sense of trust than they ever experienced in their younger years. Eleanor Rosewood learned this firsthand. After reconnecting with her playful side through music and travel, she realized intimacy could be spontaneous and fun again. Her new relationship wasn't about rekindling the fire of her 20s. It was about creating a gentler, warmer glow that suited who she was now. And in that glow, she discovered passion that was every bit as satisfying, if not more so, than what she remembered from decades past. This is the beauty of intimacy after 60. It's not about holding on to the past. It's about creating a new language of love, one built on comfort, laughter, health, and authenticity. Tip 4. Emotional barriers and fresh starts. For many seniors, the thought of dating or opening up to intimacy again isn't just exciting, it's intimidating. Beneath the smiles and polite conversations, there are quiet fears that often go unspoken. Fear of rejection. Fear of not being enough. Fear that grief from losing a spouse or partner will always linger in the background. And perhaps most personal of all, the insecurities about how aging has changed their bodies. These barriers can feel heavy, like invisible walls keeping love at a distance. But here's the truth. Every single one of these fears is more common than you think. In fact, the very people you're hoping to connect with are likely carrying their own versions of the same worries. Recognizing this can be incredibly freeing because it means you're not alone. Let's talk about grief first. For many, the loss of a longtime partner leaves scars that never fully fade. And that's okay. Moving forward doesn't mean erasing those memories. It means honoring them while allowing yourself permission to embrace joy again. Love after loss isn't a betrayal. It's a continuation of your life story. A new chapter built on the foundation of all you've lived through. Rejection is another big fear. After 60, it can feel especially vulnerable to put yourself out there again. But here's the shift. Rejection doesn't define your worth. Seniors today are learning to see dating as exploration, not judgment. Each interaction, even if it doesn't lead to romance, is a chance to connect, laugh, and grow. When you approach dating with curiosity rather than expectation, rejection loses its sting. And yes, body image matters. Wrinkles, scars, or physical changes can make anyone self-conscious. But intimacy at this stage isn't about perfection. It's about presence. The most attractive quality isn't flawless skin or toned muscles. It's confidence, warmth, and the ability to share yourself openly. When you embrace your story, your laugh lines, your strength, your resilience, you invite others to do the same. Actionable steps. Start small. Practice vulnerability by sharing something honest with a trusted friend. Build confidence by engaging in activities that make you feel alive. Dancing, volunteering, learning a new skill. And most importantly, remind yourself daily. Opening your heart is not weakness. It's courage. Eleanor Rosewood learned this when she finally admitted her fear of not being desirable to her new companion. Instead of turning away, he admired her honesty. That single moment of vulnerability deepened their bond, proving that sometimes the very things we're afraid to show become the keys to intimacy. Love after 60 thrives not because fear disappears, but because courage takes its place. And when you choose courage, fresh starts become not just possible, but beautifully rewarding. Tip 5. Eleanor's transformation. When we first met Eleanor Rosewood, she was a retired jazz singer who believed her romantic life had ended with the loss of her husband. She loved her family, filled her days with books and music, and kept herself busy. But deep down, there was a quiet emptiness, a silence between the notes of her life. What changed everything wasn't just meeting someone new. It was allowing herself to embrace love again, to step into intimacy without fear, and to rediscover joy in the places she thought were closed forever. Today, Eleanor is almost unrecognizable, not because of how she looks, but because of how she carries herself. Her friends say her laughter is fuller, echoing the way it once did on stage when she sang her heart out to an audience. Even her grandchildren notice that Grandma sparkles more now. That glow didn't come from makeup or travel souvenirs. It came from the courage to open her heart and invite passion back in. Her travels, too, have taken on new meaning. Once, trips were simply sightseeing, a way to pass time. Now, journeys are shared experiences, filled with inside jokes, spontaneous dances in quiet streets, and evenings spent holding hands under foreign skies. Travel isn't about the destination anymore. It's about the connection woven into every step along the way. And at night, where once there was loneliness, there is now companionship. Eleanor doesn't measure intimacy in grand gestures or fiery passion. Instead, it's found in conversations that stretch into the early hours, in gentle touches that remind her she's still desired, and in the comfort of knowing someone sees her for exactly who she is. That intimacy nourishes her soul, not because it erases her past, but because it honors the woman she has become. Eleanor's transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to herself, the version she thought she had lost. The music inside her plays again, not on a stage, but in the rhythm of her daily life. She's proof that love after 60 doesn't just add romance. It adds vitality, joy, and a sense of being fully alive. And here's the takeaway for every senior watching. Eleanor's glow is not unique to her. It's available to anyone willing to take that brave step toward love, intimacy, and connection. It begins the moment you decide that your story isn't finished, that your heart still has more chapters to write. Eleanor Rosewood's journey shows us something powerful. Love after 60 isn't about starting over. It's about starting fresh, with wisdom, courage, and freedom. It's about embracing all the lessons life has taught you and using them to create relationships that are more authentic, more intentional, and more deeply fulfilling than ever before. At this stage of life, love is no longer tangled in the insecurities or pressures of youth. Instead, it becomes about laughter that rings true, conversations that nourish the soul, and intimacy that values presence over perfection. Seniors across America are proving every day that romance is not only alive, it's thriving in new and exciting ways. The fears of rejection, grief from past losses, and doubts about aging are real, but they don't have to define you. They can be stepping stones toward rediscovery. Vulnerability, once seen as a risk, can become a bridge to the kind of closeness that feels liberating. And courage, the simple act of opening your heart again, can lead to joy you didn't think was possible. So let Eleanor's glow remind you, your story isn't finished. The pages of your life are still being written, and love, passion, and companionship can still play a beautiful role in them. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you found new love, started dating again, or rekindled intimacy after 60? What lessons have you learned along the way? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience may inspire someone who's still waiting for the courage to take that first step. If this video touched you or gave you hope, please take a moment to hit that like button. It tells YouTube that stories like this matter. Don't forget to subscribe to Senior Relationships After 60 for more real conversations, inspiring stories, and practical advice crafted just for you. And one more thing. Share this video with a friend, sibling, or neighbor who may secretly believe their best days of love are behind them. Remind them, just as Eleanor reminds us, that the heart doesn't age. The heart only grows. Because love after 60 isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a brand new one.